I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On the program, how are you coping with the higher cost of living?
I'm hanging on by a thread.
I'm doing okay, thankfully, have a good job.
We're just being careful with our nickels and dimes.
Do I pay my bills or do I buy food?
But first, it's no secret that virtually during the entire pandemic, hospital resources across the country were stretched to the max, and ICU beds were filled. On so many levels, COVID-19 has been a learning experience for us all. But when it comes to our hospitals or even our long-term care facilities, what lessons can we take with us for the future? Our question.
What has COVID-19 taught us about Canada's healthcare system?
I think it's taught us that the healthcare system needs a significant revamp because a lot of the structural and infrastructure problems that we deal with has been brought to light, when it comes to shortages of nurses, shortages of doctors, long wait lists in order to get a doctor. All those things came to light, and the suffering that people had to deal with because of that is now a bit more prevalent and a bit more obvious than it was in the past.
That we do not have enough doctors and nurses in Canada, that we need more beds, and that our system is very lacking in emergency measures. And when a big thing happens like this, there's nothing to help with regular hospital needs because of those shortages.
I have a confidence in our healthcare that we can, as a people, appreciate the healthcare workers, and I think we did an okay job. Can always do better, but I think as a people we also look to the positive.
I feel like it's taught us that there's a lot of gaps in our healthcare system and vulnerabilities. We need more nurses. We need nurses to be taken better care of. We need to improve our education for people going into healthcare, all the way from home care all the way to doctors and nurse practitioners. There needs to be more support, more education, and more money to help train those people that are going to take care of our health system for the future. So yeah, I think COVID-19 has identified some weaknesses and vulnerabilities in our healthcare system that we now need to really start working to fix.
Well, I think COVID-19 has taught us that we don't know as much about our healthcare system as we would have liked beforehand. So we've learned a bunch. We've learned we need to be react more quickly. We need to be definitive in our statements around healthcare. We need to really take a look at the quality and capability and capacity of our healthcare system and how we can bolster it to meet the needs of Canadians.
It's pretty disorganized, lots of resources lacking. And a lot of the money that was spent didn't lead to more resources being available. And we're seeing that right now as things open back up.
And then people were burnt out in the healthcare system. And I believe that's why a lot of people quit, and that's why we're a shortage of healthcare workers.
I really do not believe that we were prepared. I think the Canadian system could be a whole lot better in coping with having enough staff, enough technology to deal with what we were faced with the pandemic.
I think that we're realizing that we're able to maybe have access to medical services or a doctor's service without a personal visit to the person or the doctor or the service. We can have it by Zoom or video conference, and it's more accessible that way and maybe less waiting time.
Straight answer, it's a lot better than the miseries say it is. We coped very well. We took care of an enormous number of people. If we could miss a few, we missed a few, but only a few. I think it was terrific.
I would say one thing it taught us was that there was not enough capacity in the ICUs, as well as probably in the hospitals in general, because they got overwhelmed pretty quickly.
I don't know if you're familiar, but out here in BC, we have a doctor problem right now, a shortage of doctors and a shortage of people staying in the general practitioner field, and the tug to get into some private health care. And when we do look around the world, in my view, we see better healthcare systems that blend the two together better.
I think they've done really good with what they knew. None of us knew about this virus. And I think we did the best we could, and I think we're coming out of it now, and hopefully it'll bring everybody a lot closer.
We've always trusted our government and our people behind us and above us to look after us, and they didn't look after us. Not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't know how to.
Well, we had COVID early on, and we were totally impressed with the system, how it worked. We had a call from a nurse or a doctor every day for about 10 days. We were completely informed on every aspect. Once the vaccinations came in, we got email notices of when to come in, and booking was very easy. We were able to get vaccinated quite easily, and I'm totally impressed by their response to the whole COVID thing.
We need to provide a lot more opportunities for education and a lot more opportunities for individuals to be involved in their health care, especially First Nations and whatnot. Like, there needs to be a lot more emphasis on patient-centered care, I would say.
I have a lot of faith in them, and the Chief Medical Health Officer, especially for the Northwest Territories, a lot of faith in her. I believe in the science of the whole thing, and I think we've sort of caught up quick enough. You know, we had some issues, and things like long-term care facilities, they pointed out other issues, not necessarily COVID-related, but just like understaffing, lack of training in staff, and those institutes that are like pay-per-use kind of thing are really like the bane of the Canadian healthcare system. So,
but it has taught us that we need to be very prudent about the viruses that are going around. Definitely, like it can slow down the system, like to a halt.
Canada's role in world history is often looked upon fondly. We've always been there to help when needed. We've evolved over the decades and have established ourselves as an energy superpower in the global community. But many feel that because Canada is a smaller country population-wise compared to other nations, that we may not have the clout to be taken seriously. So we set out to ask Canadians how they feel we are perceived around the world. Our question:
how do you feel Canada is viewed by other nations?
I like to think that we're viewed as a friendly nation, a nation that is, for the most part, inclusive. We certainly have our issues, but I believe that we're seen as a progressive nation that is doing its best to help other nations in their struggles.
Oh, I think people like Canada in a lot of ways, you know. And there's always people coming, immigrate to Canada, and that's a good thing. It makes our diversity richer.
I think a good country, a fair country, reasonable. I mean, we got big provinces, large. Envious is the thing I come up with, being to different countries in the world, seeing firsthand.
We used to be viewed as peacekeepers, but I think now Trudeau has made some gaffes culturally, kind of gone maybe a bit overboard, trying to make people like Canadians, and it's come off as kind of silly and just a bit too much.
My family is like from Japan, and like they always talk about how nice, like, and how privileged we are to like live in like such a nice country. And yeah, like from me, like I like also grew up in Japan for like some of my life, and yeah, like I think it's just great to like live out here.
I think people think we're really nice.
Yeah.
Which we are.
With a little envy, I think, because we're a fairly peaceful lot. We don't go around making misery for our neighbors. We're fairly easygoing, we're cooperative, and we're kind of basically a peaceful people amongst ourselves and nationally.
Yeah, generally speaking, people view it as a pretty good place. It's usually in comparison to the States, though.
I think Canada has a very good reputation around the world because we help out people, and my son being in the armed forces, he's been helping out a lot.
Yeah.
So, I think we have a good reputation all around. Something to be envied.
We're Canada, man. We're chill. We're awesome. I think we have a really good reputation on the grand spectrum of everything, for sure.
I don't know that other nations think about us all that much. I don't know, I think that maybe we've got a bit of a national inferiority complex about that. So, I mean, I'm not sure.
sometimes I don't think we're taken that seriously, and then sometimes I think we are taken seriously as a nation, democracy, and certainly dealing with our issues.
I think everybody loves Canada. You know, it's a peaceful place. We're loved. I think we are all around the world. And I've traveled a lot, so I know that.
I think Canada is unfortunately perceived to be rather insignificant internationally. I don't think we have an economy that is strong enough to influence. I don't think we have a military strong enough to influence. I don't think we have enough out there as Canadians that we should have. Personally, I don't think so.
The way that people look at us changed a lot when there was the reveal of the children in Tecumseh. We have often been thought of as peacekeepers and nice and polite, and while to an extent that there are parts of Canadian culture that are that way, we are also a nation of colonialism.
It's interesting. I think with the convoys, our image has kind of changed, and I mean, you always hear the kind of the like, oh, we're so nice, but I think maybe with the convoys and COVID, people maybe are looking at us a little differently.
You know, we are one of the leaders in amongst the nations of the world. We really are. The challenge that we have, I think, in some ways, is that we're relatively small and relatively underfinanced, really, to be sitting at the table with the big guys. So our economy is robust, but it's pretty small compared to that of the U.S., China, USSR, or even Japan. So we're there. We have a seat at the table. We're known for our diplomacy, but I think also we need to be able to, if we make commitments, we need to be able to fulfill them.
In what year was the original Parliament destroyed by fire? 1900, 1916, 1930. 1900, 1916, 1930.
1900.
1916?
I will say 1930.
1930?
1930.
It's either 1900 or 1916. I'll say 1916.
1916.
You're absolutely correct. Let's have an elbow bump. Good for you. Thank you.
Oh, of course, that's it.
You may pass.
Awesome.
Take care.
You too.
Completed in 1865, Canada's new Parliament would be bound to endure as the seat of government in the newly formed nation. But in 1916, that would change as Canada's original Parliament building was destroyed by fire. Just before 9 p.m. on the evening of February 3rd, an alarm was sounded after a fire in the reading room grew out of control. Within an hour, the structure was doomed. Sadly, 7 people lost their lives. In the end, only the Library of Parliament was spared from the flames. 11 years later, construction was completed on the new Parliament, which included a peace tower, a memorial to those who lost their lives in the First World War.
With inflation at nearly a 40-year high, people are digging deeper in their pockets for their purchases than ever before. Higher interest rates means it will cost more to borrow, crushing the dream of home ownership for many Canadians. So we took to the streets to find out how people are faring through these difficult financial times. Our question:
how are you coping with the higher cost of living?
It's brutal. I mean, every single thing you buy. I used to live here, but I live elsewhere now, and when I come back, I mean, even where I live, it's unbelievable. Cost of everything: gas, ferries, meals. I mean, I've done some shopping, and it was just like, whoa, that comes to that? So, I have to think twice, what do we really need? Or, where I live, I like to support our local farmers as much as possible and when it comes to food.
You just have to not drive as much. Gas is more expensive. Eat better. That means maybe more vegetables and not so much meat. You just really have to be a careful and a smart shopper, I think, yeah.
We pick and choose what we do, and we pick and choose, where we go. We don't go out as much as we probably did before. And so it's kind of checks and balances on making sure that, we find ourselves, unlike a lot of people, we're comfortable where we live, but we still have to pick and choose what we're spending our money on.
And we're definitely concerned about a lot of people in our communities because they were barely making ends meet before the prices went up really high, and now it's like such a stretch.
Yeah.
Some of them are really struggling.
And I don't really put the government to blame for that. We're just coming through COVID. There's been a supply shortage, and we've got a war in Ukraine. So I think these are a lot of factors beyond the average person's control. And for us personally, we're getting by, and we're trying to save some money here and there, and but we'll get through it.
I have a business. I have 250 employees in that business, and I care about them and their lives. And how do we address this rapid inflation with them? How do we make sure they don't have to fall backwards? How do we keep a viable jobs and economy here? And so, yeah, I'm very concerned about that.
Living in Whitehorse, because we have to get everything from outside, so it's maybe more expensive than other provinces or other area of the Canada. So yeah, it's hard to cope up with that cost now. But yeah, we do. I do like 2 jobs to do that.
I'm not grocery shopping as much. I'm really working on using up what's ever left in the fridge before we go grocery shopping again, and planning my meals based on what's available and what's going to go bad next, so that there's no wastage, rather than taking a more relaxed approach to it. I'm planning that kind of thing a lot better, and I'm being a lot more cognizant of what the temperature is set in the house. Was before I probably didn't pay as much attention to that either.
Some of our food costs have gone up dramatically. Cheese, for example, that was $8.50 3 years ago is now $13. So that's a huge jump. And it's really going to, I have a good pension, I'm going to be okay, but it's really going to hit those people at the margins of society. And we need to think about how best to deal with that.
I'm hanging on by a thread. I live in Vancouver, and I'm about to not get rent-evicted, but the person who owns my condo wants to sell it. He never even lived in Vancouver, so we got an apartment during COVID times, and now we're going to have to pay market prices, which is $2,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment in Vancouver.
I stay buying just the necessity, not luxury food, and buy local. For instance, buy from the local farmer your beef instead of go and buy steak by steak, package by package. Buy from the local farmer your eggs, you get it cheaper. And it didn't really affect me so much, but I've noticed the people that live in the city, they complain about the cost, but us out in the rural area, it's a little bit better for us.
Well, actually, I'm lucky with the cost of living because I live in a place where the rent hasn't gone up, but a lot of people are brutally struggling, especially with the price of gas. And yeah, this inflation for people who aren't homeowners and have to move for rent, they're in a really bad spot right now.
How are you doing personally?
I'm doing okay, thankfully, have a good job, but other people, yeah, not so much.
Well, I'm a retired nurse, so I feel like I'm lucky and I'm blessed. I have like financially stable, and if I want to have a little bit more leeway for to enjoy myself, maybe just work a little bit more. But maybe it's a little bit sad for people that has limited finances. Maybe they do need to work a little bit longer. So that's kind of sad.
Lack of better words, we're going to have to raise interest rates in order to reduce inflation, which causes a downward pressure on that same note. That's going to cause some grief for people.
Like everybody else, it's kind of a juggling thing. Do I pay my bills or do I buy food? And it's going up fast.
I get by, I mean, living cost seems to be something that will always slowly inflate throughout time. Just be smart, be wise, and, keep doing your part and save a bit of money. That's it, right?
Very, very hard. I have to go to the Arnica. I get $100 a month from income support. That's through my disability. That's what I live on for $100 a month.
In past decades, people have followed politics through what was available in the mainstream media at the time, which would be television, radio, or print. Well, things have changed drastically, and tools like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube have opened a whole new realm on how people follow a party's platform, as well as adding your voice to the conversation. We sent our cameras out to ask Canadians how this new medium has altered the way people stay politically informed. Our question:
how has social media changed the way you follow politics?
Social media has changed how I view politics. It's fascinating because it's instantaneous. It's also a platform for a lot of a variety, people with a variety of opinions. Those are good things. It can be trolled quite easily, and there's always this nagging fear in the background about, is manipulation, subtle or overt, happening?
I feel like I get a lot of my politics I still listen to the radio, I listen to podcasts, but I do it on my phone, so I guess that makes it easier to get the content I want. But I do see how social media and their algorithms can really shape people's politics, especially I think the older generation who aren't really aware of how this content is being fed into their social media feeds.
I probably pay a lot closer attention to a lot of the issues now that I did before because they're more in my face. I've become a lot more, have a lot more intimate knowledge of the different politicians. Like right now there's the conservative leadership going on, so there's a lot of information about that going on, and I probably, before social media, I probably wouldn't have even realized it or paid any attention to it at all because it wasn't brought forward to me all the time in my face like it is now.
Well, I am very low profile on social media. I have email, I don't have Facebook, I don't have any of them. And I'm actually against them because I think there's a lot of bad information on Facebook. I don't know enough about Instagram, and I think so on Twitter. I think there's a lot of cruelty that's come out from people who use Facebook, who use whatever, Twitter. And I think that the anonymity of those social medias allow people to be cruel, which I don't understand myself because I don't think that makes for a better world, but they must have a lot of anger in them. So yeah, I myself try and avoid those.
We learn to not believe in anything we learn from the social media. So like I'm very wary of it, let's put it that way.
Oh, I don't follow social media at all. I don't have a Facebook account, I don't have a Twitter account, I don't have any of that. The only account I use is my wife's, and yeah, so it has no impact.
You know, the thing about social media is that everyone can have an opinion, and whether that opinion is informed or not is, you know, just open to the speculation.
I'm not huge on social media. There's one platform that I do connect with people in my community, and that's the main reason why I'm on it. And there's all sorts of things, and some of it's so wacky, and then some of it's like shocking, and some of it, you know, there's such a mix. Some of it's interesting, it gets you thinking, but some of it you'll read only there and you won't read anywhere else.
The new truth, it is whatever is said on social media enough times takes over from truth. The lies become truth. People accept them as truth. And I don't know how anybody is supposed to be able to tell what the real truth is today.
Yeah, I think a lot of younger people are now really starting to become invested in politics because of social media. Like, I even have a little cousin who's fully immersed in politics now, and, you know, she probably doesn't really know much about it because she is young, but she knows, like, all these politicians, all these lawyers, and it's pretty cool. What about you? What do you think?
I think it's good, like, people just, like, being able to express, like, their own opinions to, just different, like, just everybody, honestly. And, like, yeah, just, like, there's more, like, people being able to spread awareness. And, like, I think I can see it for myself because just with, like, in my family, just, like, during dinner, like, we always have, like, talks about, like, how the politics is going and, like, how, like, the world is, like, changing, especially because of COVID and stuff like that. So I think it's good. Like, social media is definitely helping, like, people to, like, reach out and, like, express their opinions and stuff like that, yeah.
I'm pretty sure more people are voting too now. there's a lot more voting awareness. Like, I think social media is just a great platform.
Yeah, I would say that we are very influenced nowadays because of the social media networks, and I don't know. Like, I think we're losing our way to think. Well, I don't know if I can say that, but like we don't think properly. We just think with the group, and I don't know. We're a bit influenced by the social networks, definitely.
Yeah. I would also say that it changed the way the politicians try to address us, because I think they try to get sort of sound bites and small things that sound good in the titles on social media in order to garner votes, rather than maybe tackling issues more substantively and more comprehensively. So I think that's changed, and then in turn, that's shaped how we regard politics, because that's what we get.
Social media does bring us stories that others can't. It's possible. Not only the technology involved, speed and accuracy. It's fascinating. Real time. And then you can make your decision depending, or just turn it off if it's too much, or turn it on, watch more.
Yeah, I've kind of actually stopped using Facebook and other places like that because it's become pretty polarized and it's kind of turned into a shout fest. And I think younger Canadians are looking for more of a middle ground and kind of trying to get away from kind of legacy media a bit and trying to get kind of vloggers' takes on things, yeah.
I don't like what I'm seeing in social media. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of anger towards other people within the political parties and against the other political parties. And I'm not happy with what I'm seeing in terms of, I would like to think that my elected officials are working for the people, not just for themselves and their political gain. And that's what I'm seeing more in social media right now.
Not the way I look at it, but it has interfered with the functioning of politics far too much, because our politicians can't behave in any reasonably normal way without being picked on. So they have to be always politically correct. Even though they feel like making positive changes somewhere, they can't do it. They're being interfered with too much.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.